Greetings and salutations, friends, and welcome back to Truthseekers. Today, I thought we would veer off of some of our usual subject matter and cover something that has been an enduring mystery for perhaps hundreds, maybe even thousands of years. And that is the mystery of the Bermuda Triangle. Now, I, like many, first heard about this as a child, and I'm sure where I heard about it was in that Time Life book series. Uh, there, when I was young, there was no, internet. So, in order to get your fix about the mysteries out there in the world, there was a Time Life book series. I'm going to share my screen and show you. Some of you, I'm sure, are old enough to remember these Time Life books. And the one was Mysterious Places. And the Bermuda Triangle, for sure, has been a mysterious place for many, many years. Now, it's interesting that many different writers and people who comment on this phenomenon define the triangle differently. One early article delineated the boundaries of the triangle, giving its vertices as Miami, San Juan, Puerto Rico, and Bermuda. But subsequent writers didn't necessarily follow this definition. So it's a very loose definition of what defines what's in the triangle versus outside of the triangle. Some people define it as larger, some people define it as smaller. And some writers writing about the Bermuda Triangle have given different boundaries and vertices to the triangle, with the total area varying from 1.3 thousand to 3,900 kilometer or 500,000 to 1,500,000 square miles. Some writers even stretch it as far as the Irish coast, which I don't understand, but consequently, the determination of which accidents occurred inside the triangle and which incidents of lost or disappeared flights or ships or shipwrecks, it really depends on who is writing the article, which I find interesting. So I myself, once traveling throughout the Caribbean, remembered the Bermuda Triangle, asked many local guides on the boats that we were taking to go snorkeling or scuba diving or just sightseeing, and was regaled with some amazing stories about just how many shipwrecks are out there in the middle of the Bermuda Triangle. It's interesting to note that while many scientists have put forth some sort of theories about what it is that is causing these strange disappearances. And it's not just disappearances, friends, because along with the hundreds, perhaps thousands of airplanes, ships, and boats which have mysteriously vanished inside this strange devil's triangle, some have called it, there are also tales of a more esoteric type, tales of perhaps portals, aliens, and other strangeness, high strangeness. It's interesting to note that there are also a great deal of UFO reports within the triangle, reported by fishermen, longshoremen, airplane pilots, and more. It is a hotbed of UFO activity. And one could wonder, why is that? Now, some have hypothesized that the reason for so many UFO related sightings in that area is because of the strange weather phenomenon. Every hurricane blows off of the African coast and heads towards Florida. Many, thankfully, veer off, but there is a great amount of thunderstorms. While in the Caribbean with my wife once, we experienced some of those thunderstorms, and they are hella crazy. And I'm sure that many have witnessed the phenomenon known as ball lightning and mistook it for alien spacecraft or a UFO or UAP or something much more exotic than just weather phenomenon. Now, there are some famous stories, of course, that come out of the Bermuda Triangle. One of the most famous is the flight of 5 officers on a training flight who mysteriously their compasses on all their planes mysteriously went dead. And it was a training mission, which strangely it was a training mission for advanced navigation. All 5 of the airplanes are assumed to have run out of fuel trying to find their way back to the mainland. Apparently, the main officer in charge of the training flight lost his bearings after his compasses, both of them, 2 of them were on each of the aircraft. So that's 10. If each of these aircraft had 2 compasses, I'm assuming that some airplanes have 2 for 1 for backup. All of them went dead. Now, there's many theories about why compasses are problematic within this Bermuda Triangle. But in the case of this famous flight where 5, count them, 5 airplanes went completely and totally missing, their instruments and their compasses went completely dead. They were completely unusable. Now, ask any pilot. Many pilots fly by instruments. You know, of course, pay attention out the window and looking where you're flying, but you're flying by instruments. So, of course, it becomes extremely problematic if all of your instruments, especially your compass, and you don't even know which way is west, east, south, north, are gone. There was an extensive investigation into that lost flight. Later, it would be determined that because the compasses went dead, that it was not the fault of the commander of that mission. Subsequently, the wreckage of those 5 airplanes was never found. There was an extensive search and rescue operation, finding not one survivor from that famous flight. This happened, of course, in the 40s. And the disappearances and strangeness in the Bermuda Triangle would continue to present day. It's interesting to note that even in modern times, some 60, I checked the statistics on this, some 60 boats or ships and some 5 airplanes go missing in the Bermuda Triangle every year in modern times, which is extremely strange to me that many boats and airplanes disappear every year, and authorities largely really have no idea what the cause of these strange disappearances is, or I would think more importantly, how best to prevent those strange disappearances. While in the Caribbean, I got to get something of a souvenir in the form of a shipwreck map. And it is amazing how many shipwrecks are out there. Equally amazing to me is how many ships go completely vanish off the face of the earth, and their wrecks, either or wreckage from them, are never found. But I suppose that my favorite of the stories out of the Bermuda Triangle is, of course, the story of Pan Am Flight 914. In July 1944, a Pan Am flight labeled Flight 914 departed from New York City, heading towards Miami. It's interesting to note that Flight 914 never sent out any sort of distress signal, but the plane and 57 passengers on board vanished from thin air. Now, I'm not sure of the accuracy of this story, but I've heard it told many different times. I suppose we could put on our list of things to do, vetting parts of this story, but it would appear that 37 years later, the impossible seemed to happen. And that is in Corazos, Venezuela, radar showed an empty sky, but a plane got near to the airport. And as it got nearer, they realized that it was an old propeller-driven plane, the likes of which no one at that airport had seen in decades, a prop-driven passenger plane. It seemed to be out of another time, another era. Now, it is said that Juan de Licardo, an air traffic controller, contacted the pilot on radio, asking the pilot to identify himself. And the pilot replied, 914, ready to touch down in Miami. This, of course, is as it was coming into land 1,200 miles from Miami in Venezuela. If this story is true, then somehow this plane not only time traveled to 37 years later, but also its location somehow teleported to some 1,200 miles away from its last known destination. Amazing that a flight controller would contact them and the pilot replied 914, ready to touch down in Miami. Apparently, if we are to believe this story, the plane somehow traveled 37 years in time and 1,200 miles away from its last known location. The plane touched down on the runway in Venezuela. And there are reports that staring out of the windows were people in clothing that would appear to be out of time, staring in confusion at the modern airport and the modern airplanes taxiing around the runway around this phantom plane. The pilot called to the air traffic controllers and asked to confirm the date. And the date was confirmed as May 21st, 1992. The pilot of this strange phantom plane apparently flung open a cockpit window, claiming that he had to leave, and waving around a clipboard, which is strange, and one page dropped from the airplane cockpit window, or so it is said. The plane then said it had to go, and it took off without warning and climbed away from the airport through the clouds. The air traffic controller who had that radio contact with the pilot rushed down to the tarmac and found that page. And the page, strangely, was a calendar dating from 1955. Proponents of the story claim that it was somehow verified that this was indeed the missing Flight 914 from 37 years in the past. So did the plane go through some sort of wormhole that changed its location, both in time and space? Now, if this were the only story of time travel or teleportation out of the Bermuda Triangle, I'm not so sure that I would believe it, but there are multiple claims coming out of stories of the Bermuda Triangle where one pilot in particular, I recall, claimed that he had somehow traveled 100 miles in just minutes. And before doing that, had seen some sort of strange sort of portal forming in front of his airplane that he tried to avoid, but kept jumping in front of him until he was forced to go through it. And somehow that pilot claimed that he had traveled 100 miles in just a few moments. Interestingly, back to this Flight 914, there were search aircraft at the time it disappeared also sent out. Several search aircraft sent out looking for Flight 914, any survivors or its wreckage, and those search aircraft also disappeared, vanished without a trace, and were never found. Now, there are some interesting theories about what has been the cause of the Bermuda Triangle's strange effects, and we will get into them. There's three theories that I hear the most. The first is the strangest and most esoteric explanation, and that is that somewhere within the Bermuda Triangle are the remnants or remains of the ancient lost city of Atlantis. And some claim that there is some sort of strange technological device from the lost city of Atlantis or the wreckage of the lost city of Atlantis inside the Bermuda Triangle, which is causing these strange effects. Now, both ships, boats, and airplanes have reported for many years that compasses become useless or the needles start going haywire in certain areas of the Bermuda Triangle. Other ship captains, boat captains, and pilots have reported that all of their electrical instruments, anything electrical, dies, except the engine in most cases, which is strange. So they're able to continue on their journey, on their voyage. However, without modern navigational tools like GPS or even something as low tech as a compass will also stop working. It's often been suggested that there are some sort of strange magnetic fields or electrical fields that cause some kind of interference with plane navigation electronics or boat navigation electronics. I talked to one person who told me that everything, including his radio, went dead. And it wasn't until hours later that the instruments came back on. That person believed that they had stumbled upon a bubble or area within the Bermuda Triangle where these strange effects take place. Interesting that he noted this area so as not to cross it again, because I don't know how much experience any of you have with boats, but I have a good deal of experience. My father was a boat guy, had a big cabin cruiser for a time when we were growing up. Earlier than that, we had a speedboat. He had a few small sailboats, mostly lake sailboats. We never did anything big with a sailboat. But one of the things when I've been on a boat that is very scary to me is losing sight of the shoreline. I don't like it. To this day, if I go on a boat, I want to be able to still see land. I do not want to see anything but open water. And it's interesting to note that many of these boat captains, ship captains, and pilots experience some form of mental problem. They become disoriented, unable to tell. In pilots' cases, there are reports of pilots not being able to tell left from right and up from down, which certainly would make flying a plane a difficult endeavor. Again, when I go out on a boat, I don't want to go so far out in the ocean that you lose sight of the shoreline. That horizon, especially to pilots, is so important to be able to get your bearings, to be able to know this is up, this is down, this is left, this is right. You need to be able to see the horizon. And one of the strange things that I noticed when I was both in Florida and in the Caribbean is if you're in a boat and you lose sight of the shoreline, remember, blue sky, blue water. It gets confusing very fast. And I remember experiencing this myself and realizing that I was having difficulty telling where the horizon was. This certainly may complicate people, especially when they're forced to navigate without any instruments. Now, certainly at night you can navigate by stars if there's a clear sky, but Florida is known to have an incredible amount of strange cloud formations that could be 100 miles wide. So some of these pilots and ship captains and boat captains have been caught out in the Bermuda Triangle at night with the cloud cover so thick they couldn't see the stars to use those to navigate. It's a very dangerous area, especially with these strange electrical and magnetic anomalies, which apparently cause or can cause people's instruments to just stop working. So the theories, what we have many different theories. I mentioned the first one, which to me is a stretch, but okay. I know I heard somebody in the live chat mention there is dark journalists and others have done a lot of work showing the incredible amount of apparent ancient ruins that are within that area, many of which have not really been fully explored or investigated, to my knowledge, by scientists and researchers. It's interesting to note that Edgar Casey famously places the lost city of Atlantis at the Bimini Road, which is, of course, nearby. So the Atlantis theory may explain some of these strange esoteric time travel or portals that people seem to experience in the Bermuda Triangle. I see Allison Roberts is here and mentioning magnetic fields and weather. Yes, another explanation is extreme weather patterns. Ever been to Florida? I highly encourage you to take some boat rides. And if you're lucky, on one of those boat rides, you'll see a Florida thunderstorm, a good one, up close and personal. It was a little scary, but it wasn't raining long, and we were back to shore. We actually went on well, that wasn't Florida, that was the Caribbean, but we went to swim with sharks, and there's a big thunderstorm. So the boat captain and the tour company decided to call it because it was very dangerous, that bad of a thunderstorm. And I remember being happy to get back to that shore. But in some cases, imagine being in the middle of a huge storm like that. All your instruments go. You can't see the shoreline or know which way you have to turn to go to the shore. And your compass is dead on top of that. This may, my friends, be the cause for the many ships that go completely and totally missing. It's also interesting to note to me that just how many shipwrecks there are in that area. There are more shipwrecks in the Bermuda Triangle than there are shipwrecks up and down the entire rest of the United States coast. This is well known. Why are so many ships going down in the middle of the Bermuda Triangle and not so much further up the coast of the East Coast in the Atlantic Ocean? Again, this is an enduring mystery, and it's one that I have been following since childhood. Recently, reminded of this by a viewer who said, hey, Steve, how come you've never talked about the Bermuda Triangle? And the truth is, it's been on my list. We just never quite got to it following other stories. But I thought this week would be a good time to try to cover something different. Now, I realize a lot of people come here solely for UFO-related content, but more and more lately, I've been thinking that we really do need to cover other topics. And with respect to anybody that's trying to do a show 5 days a week just covering that stuff, there is not enough of that. There is not enough. That's my opinion. After all, we've got a whole bunch of different UFO shows spending days arguing about a pin on Google Maps. That's how little new stuff is happening in that world. And more lately, I've been thinking that until somebody has actual evidence or proof, I don't want to chase my tail any more than I have to, or chase shadows any more than I have to. And best of luck to anybody who thinks, hey, there's plenty to talk about. We can cover this 6 days a week. Good for you. But I see the desperation in some people to, get something else to talk about for tonight. And then tomorrow's another day. Now we're going to have to stretch this nothing burger story for another night. I don't think that it's doing anybody any good stretching nothing burger stories that really almost don't warrant one night's coverage. To me, this last story, it warranted one night's coverage. Hey, this interesting thing happened, but here's why it's a garbage story. Move on. Some people are going to cover that and keep covering it and keep covering it because there's nothing else new, friends. And that's the truth. I realized in thinking about things over the weekend that I don't want to be one of those people that's just like, well, let's just stretch this for another night, try a new angle on this. If the story was a nothing burger on the first night, stretching it out for 5 days. Oh, well, this person said this, or it might be this, it might be that. It's still going to be a nothing burger after you've talked about it for 5 days, right? Yes. Spooky. I agree 100% with Spooky, our contributing producer here. We're in agreement. Bob Lazar is fake. S4 is not real. And the pin is pointless. Case closed, moving on. And yes, Spooky correctly pointed out, and I didn't verbalize this, and I should have, but Spooky correctly pointed out that we were arguing, a bunch of us spent days arguing about this story. And the whole origin of the original story came from a convicted pimp fake scientist who's probably not telling the truth. So to me, after a while, it becomes ridiculous to argue about something on a Google map when the original story came from a convicted pimp, fraud felon. S4 is real, but it's a radar shack on the Tonopah test range. It's not a flying saucer secret base. There's no evidence. There hasn't been evidence in 35 years that Bob Lazar is telling the truth. So I think running with this pin story was kind of pointless, right? It's like, well, that liar may have been telling the truth because somebody labeled something on Google Maps. It's garbage. And then we find out who brought us the story. And for anybody to suggest that a guy who would fake, apparently or allegedly fake terminal cancer to steal money from a benefit wouldn't fake a pin on Google Maps is ridiculous. And by the way, I do want to mention that some people were entirely wrong when they made absolutist statements. Some people said there is absolutely no way that you can place a government pin without being a government employee. And what we found out is that that is entirely not the case, because here we have, it's not up now, but it was for a time. It's not up now. This is very important to point out. It's not up now, but it was, because what we found out is that, yes, anybody can place a government pin and label something anything they want. Here we have a longtime friend of the show, Mario Heat, who placed a government pin here, which says third phase of moon MDL. But here's the problem. The pin and the government pin and the label will stay up for a time. But as soon as one other local guide flags that as not accurate, the pin comes down. I believe that the correct procedure in order to do this is to register a business on Google and then claim your business location. Now, it's also important to note that Mario Heat, this person just randomly used what appears to be a building, which may have led to it getting flagged faster than usual, when perhaps if you flag something out in the middle of the desert that nobody's paying attention to, it might stay up for a while. So again, anybody apparently can claim a business on, register a business on Google, and then claim their business location and label it anything they want and include a government pin if they so choose to. But again, the problem comes in when somebody else, another local guide, flags it as not accurate location, then Google Maps takes it down. So, people are talking about misinformation or disinformation surrounding this thing. The people pushing the story shouldn't be telling people factually inaccurate statements like you can't place a government pin if you're not a government employee. Now, this may not have stayed up, but it's very clear that, yes, you can. So, yeah, we're going to just try to move on from this story. Now, back to, and we're going to try to make this quick show, by the way, because we are way far behind in some of our distribution. So I've got to get some of the audio podcasts back up to date and some other things later tonight. So what we have with the Bermuda Triangle is some prevailing theories. The first being, and the most esoteric or woo explanation, is that these strange anomalies or strange effects within the Bermuda Triangle are caused by there being some unknown technology in the ruins of Atlantis that is within that area. Now, I love stories of Atlantis because they're kind of out there. And, according to many so called, I always like it when somebody calls themselves an Atlantis researcher. There's very little out there. Plato talked about it in a famous historical text. But other than that, we don't get very much in the history books about this strange and mysterious place. But I guess proponents of the Atlantis explanation for everything say, well, that's because of the Great Flood and all that technology was lost and the history was lost. So then we go on, we have to do archaeological digs and find it. And yeah, okay. I'm not so convinced, but that's one of these theories, that there is some sort of weird teleporting time travel crystal maybe technology under the ocean floor that is causing some of these strange effects. I remain unconvinced about that theory. Now we go on to some other theories that are more scientific in nature. One of them is that these strange things are caused by magnetite, which is lodestone, which is what first made humans discover magnetics. And I'm going to share my screen and we can talk about magnetite. Apparently there are very large deposits of magnetite in that area. And magnetite is a mineral and one of the main iron ores with a chemical formula FeO2. It is one of the oxides of iron and is ferrimagnetic. It is attracted to a magnet and can be magnetized to become a permanent magnet itself. It is the most magnet of all naturally occurring minerals on Earth. So what we have in the area of the Bermuda Triangle is high levels on the seabed floor of magnetite. And this, of course, some scientists say is what causes compasses and other electronic devices to stop working. There could be huge deposits of this stuff on the bottom of the seafloor. You ride over it with your ship, your boat, or your airplane, and suddenly your compass doesn't work and your instruments stop working, and electronic devices, in some cases, completely and totally stop working. Could be that these deposits are creating very, very strong magnetic fields. And that is very interesting to me. And it's, of course, more scientific than, hey, it's time travel teleportation devices from magnetite, or I'm sorry, from Atlantis. And it's interesting, too, that some of these people who are, like them crystal hippie bitches, some people that are very into crystals assign almost magical properties, just like they do to crystals, to magnetite. Again, I'm not convinced, but I just want to put that out there, that some people think that magnetite has some sort of almost magical properties, energy properties. And I don't know, so I'm just mentioning that because this is what some people think. It's sort of like crystal. It's got some kind of magical energy properties. And for all I know, it does. And that's what's causing these strange anomalies. So the next prevailing theory is that these strange disappearances could be caused by gas erupting from the ocean floor. And there have been, you can search YouTube, there is a view of this in almost every documentary. If you watch any documentary on the Bermuda Triangle, any more recent one anyway, from maybe the late 90s forward, they show an experiment where gas bubbles, they put like a toy ship, in a glass container, and then they release methane gas bubbles, and the ship sinks. It loses buoyancy somehow, and it sinks, usually straight to the bottom, which could also explain why there are so many ships and boats that go completely and totally missing and zero wreckage is ever found. Somehow, This methane gas disrupts the ship's ability to remain buoyant or floating, flooding it with gas and bubbles, which somehow, I don't understand the physics of this, but I've seen demonstrations of it, so it is a viable solution to some of this. And there have been some scientific studies about methane gas deposits on the bottom of the ocean in that area. And also interesting to note that a lot of people who experience strange phenomenon within the Bermuda Triangle become confused, disoriented, and more. If you were in a ship or on a boat and there is huge gas deposits of methane coming up from the ocean floor, that may be enough to disrupt your intake of oxygen, for all I know, and cause you to become confused. After all, people familiar with carbon monoxide poisoning will perhaps realize that some people, when they're experiencing carbon monoxide, become confused and disoriented because of the lack of oxygen. For all we know, these methane deposits shoot up from the ocean floor, and a large area of the ocean that any of these boats are in may be experiencing super high levels of methane and therefore low levels of oxygen, which could cause some sort of disorientating or confusion effects because of the lack of oxygen. Yeah, I would think that you would smell the methane, but I'm not sure if that's the case. Tyler from the live chat is mentioning this. Smell that? Yeah, who knows, right? And but it is an interesting theory, and the fact that scientists have shown the effects that a large deposit of methane shooting from the ocean floor could actually sink a boat or a ship. I mean, it would have to be a huge one, but it's still very, very interesting. Now, so these theories, majorly, we have Atlantis, we have methane bubble explanation, and we have the magnetite explanation. But along with that, there is always people mentioning the strange weather phenomenon. And once in a while, there's a new documentary that claims we did it. We solved the mystery of the Bermuda Triangle. And I love how they always say it as a statement of fact. And sure, they'll show some convincing evidence that, yeah, this could be the cause of some of these strange effects. But I always find it interesting that they just title, it's almost like clickbait. Bermuda Triangle mystery finally solved. Maybe I don't think so. But one recent one I wanted to share. I'm going to share my screen. This is a transformative work. We are educating the public. Here we go. Just such a headline. Experts may have uncovered the mystery behind the Bermuda Triangle. An upcoming Science Channel documentary claims to have uncovered the cause around the Bermuda Triangle's propensity for shipwrecks, downed planes, and vanished aviation pioneers. So what's to blame? Aliens, an ancient curse, or an Illuminati conspiracy? It turns out, according to the Science Channel, that the likely culprit is clouds. According to meteorologists, the Bermuda Triangle sees an unusual amount of hexagonal-shaped clouds that could be up to 50 miles across that cause localized high winds. These winds may explain why many vessels have met an unfortunate end within the million square miles of open sea between Bermuda, Florida, and Puerto Rico. However, some experts aren't so sure that the mystery is solved. NBC meteorologist Kevin Coureview saying that the hexagonal cloud shapes in Bermuda are not the cloud signature of what a microburst looks like. And of course, for more for the story, you can visit this other article in the Telegraph. So a microburst has been another explanation. And what a microburst is a tiny, tiny storm front that will create high winds, super high winds in a very small localized area. People have also attributed that some of these may be due to water funnels or other strange meteorological phenomenon. I remain open to any of the explanations being a possibility. However, I sort of lean against the Atlantis. It's a little too woo for me. The Atlantis explanation is like, until somebody actually, finds what we're sure is Atlantis, and I don't know how that's ever going to happen or if it's ever going to happen. It's just but this is, I suppose this is the cause of a lot of speculation, is that there are strange and mysterious things that happen within this area. So many ships lost, so many airplanes lost, people disappear without a trace. They never find bodies, almost never find wreckage. It's interesting to note that flight of 5 airplanes that I mentioned from 1945, which is always cited almost first in every Bermuda Triangle documentary, recently, or more recent times, a few different people claim to have found those 5 airplanes, but in each case, it turned out to be incorrect identification of other similar airplanes that went down and were sitting on the ocean floor, but not these 5 famous flight that was vanished in the Bermuda Triangle. Interesting that people continue to study these things, though. There are people that go out every day and try and uncover, the reason for this mystery. And this, I suppose, it's why it's just a great mystery, and will continue to be. Now, I had some stuff I was going to share, but then I realized it's from Discovery UK, who always copyright claims me, and that was an explanation of just how methane releases could cause a ship to suddenly sink. With a demonstration, I would advise you to just look up methane gas Bermuda Triangle, put it in the YouTube search bar. You'll find 20 videos showing you that. We're going to err on the side of caution considering current copyright claim situation. And for those that have asked, we do still have a copyright strike against us due to legal threats levied against us, I believe, in error. We filed a counter notification, and that person making those false copyright claims and issuing a hard strike on our channel had 10 days to sue us in federal court and prove what they were saying was true and accurate. They chose not to do so. We still have a strike here, and we still have our 4 videos removed by YouTube. I believe that this is due to YouTube having a backlog of these cases, and apparently in a short time, the strike should be removed, and those 4 videos that were removed due to legal threats will be replaced and returned to our channel here. But in the meantime, you can check out our Odyssey channel or our Rumble channel. Those so-called too hot for YouTube videos are still on our alternate distribution points, which is more proof that the person who made these claims against me didn't really care about copyrights, because he only cared about copyrights on YouTube. Apparently, we can violate copyrights all we want on our audio podcast or, 4 other video distribution platforms, and he doesn't care. And that it is what it is. So I did find a fun video that I am going to share. And this gentleman has a paraglider, and I wanted to be able to just show you some of the area. And also, I just thought that this video was pretty interesting because this guy's got balls. You would not catch me on a paraglider, something as flimsy as a I don't even want to fly through the Bermuda Triangle or take a boat through the Bermuda Triangle. This guy, we're going to share my screen. First, I'm going to put up my fair use banner. And once again, we're going to cite fair use. This is transformative work. We're educating the public. We are using this video, and we will be critiquing it and offering our commentary and discussing it with the live chat. This is certainly fair use and allowable by law. All right. So this crazy guy has got a paramotor, a paraglider. For those who don't know, that's a parachute with the engine you strap on your back, basically. I'm sure it's fun, right? But I don't think it's fun over the Bermuda Triangle. But I wanted to give you some view of the Florida coastline, and this offers us a good opportunity to do that. So we have, one second here. I wanted to just mention it's Chucky Wright's channel. Hopefully he doesn't mind that we're sharing his video. He's got a bunch of great flight videos on his YouTube channel. Really enjoyed some of his videos when researching this story. So here we have this guy flying right into the Bermuda Triangle from off the Bermuda coast. And I just want to say that this guy is a lot more brave than I would be. Nothing but a parachute and a little motor with a few gallon tank of gas. You wouldn't catch me out there.
So the sharks don't get me. So we got about 5 miles to go offshore, basically where that ship is out, way farther.
Yeah, so it begins off the Florida coast, about 5 miles off of the Florida coast.
Yeah, about where that ship is. So we'll start touching base with you guys a little bit more once we get farther out there. Well, guys, we are officially out of the last ring for height restrictions. So now we are able to kind of just push it, as you guys can see right here. That's it. Oh no, we got one more ring. I lied. Sorry.
Yeah, and notice the color of the water. Like I said, there is this strange effect when you're in blue water with blue skies where you can actually lose the horizon.
This last ring is 3,000 foot is my limit on this next ring. So we're sitting at 1,000 feet right now. We got plenty more ground to cover. This is why it's important to stay inside of the correct airspaces. This guy's probably flying at 30-something hundred feet. Maybe not. He's probably actually inside of this airspace, but we're both in the legal open airspace right now, and he's just cruising, and I'm just cruising. I saw him coming. I dropped 400 or 500 feet when he was probably about a mile out, and we're good because he's up there and I'm down here. That's how it's done. You got to keep your eyes peeled at all times. It's something that I've been actually proud of myself for while flying paramotors, is constantly looking out for planes, constantly. Well, guys, we are officially inside of the Bermuda Triangle. We are literally out here on the side of the Bermuda Triangle. We'll do a quick little 360 panorama. This is it. You see a cruise ship off there in the distance. You can see the commercial airliner right there cruising into its airspace. This is it. We freaking made it into the Bermuda Triangle. Pretty cool. I mean, I'm out here this.
Pretty interesting. And, one of the things is when you go out there, there's not much to see. I mean, it's just water, right? If you go over the 5 miles from the coast, you could still see the coast. So I felt like it was pretty. Yeah, I know the sound on the video was low. He was just talking about going over the border of the edge, the 5 mile mark. So once you go over the 5 mile mark from the Florida coast, apparently you are in the Bermuda Triangle. And when I was in Florida, we were out on boats, and yeah, you go over the 5 mile thing and you're in the Bermuda Triangle. But right there, it's not very scary to me because 5 miles, you could still look back and see the shore and know where you're at. and you don't get those disoriented effects that you do when you're surrounded by blue skies and blue water. Um, I um, I found it to be kind of like a letdown. Like, okay, we're in the Bermuda Triangle. What does this mean? Nothing. You're 5 miles off the coast of Florida. That's all. I think it's not really. Yeah, I understand the mic was muted. For I said two things, so I'm trying to repeat myself now. So one of the things that struck me was that it's not very scary being right on the edge of the Bermuda Triangle, because you can look back and see the shoreline. So to me, it wasn't scary at all. If push came to shove, I could swim 5 miles, right? I don't know about in shark infested waters, but but me, I don't like that. I have been on the ocean in a boat, uh, cabin cruisers, both with my father, and I was in something called the Sea Explorers, which is like it's like Boy Scouts for people that like boats. And I didn't really want to be in it. My dad sort of made me, me and my brother. But anyway, we once took a cabin cruiser boat back from the Jersey Shore, all the way down the coast of Jersey to Pennsylvania coast, up through the Delaware River, to take this boat and moor it someplace. And we had very, very bad weather the whole trip, and I was throwing up for about 2 days straight, and eating cold ham sandwiches. It was terrible. But that was one of the times that I've been out on the open ocean. I don't know why. I thought the best way to navigate back to the Delaware River would just be to hug the coastline, and but for whatever reason, the captain, the person in charge of the boat, who wasn't my father, he was a friend of my father's, the Sea Scout master, decided to drive us 10 or 15 or 20 miles out of shore and then make the turn to go towards the Delaware River. And I felt very uneasy. In fact, every time I've ever been out on open ocean and I couldn't see the shoreline, I felt very uneasy. But in on the East Coast, at least in my experience, when you're out on Jersey water or Pennsylvania water or Delaware water or Maryland, whatever, the ocean is darker. It's not sky blue. So I think a leading cause of this disorientation could also be the lack of being able to tell the horizon. Blue water and blue sky merge, and you're not sure where the horizon is. It's very confusing to your senses. Um, anyway, I don't like, to this day, I won't go on a boat if we're going to go so far out that I don't see the shore. I like to be able to know where I got to swim to if shit goes bad. Effluent for you is asking, did I ever? No, I rode a Greyhound halfway across the country once. Not all the way, but halfway for sure. So, boy, what can I say? The mystery is an enduring mystery for a reason. Is the Bermuda Triangle strange effects being caused by some sort of strange ancient technology, ruins in that area that may be related to Atlantis or some other lost high-tech civilization lost to history? Is it the magnetite, the strange rock formations that are magnetic, causing strange magnetic anomalies and interfering with electrical devices? Is it the weather phenomenon there that causes this? Is it simply the fact that blue skies and blue water can disorient people and make them unable to tell where the horizon is, so they make navigation errors? Especially, they could make navigation errors when the use of their own navigation equipment, their compasses, their GPS, their electrical devices all fail, and their radios fail, so they can't call for help. I believe that it may be a combination of these things. And but on and on we go, and there are still stories that come out of the Bermuda Triangle every year. Interestingly, here's another one of those stories about gas giants. Do gas giants or gas bubbles cause this strange effect? Do gas bubbles explain the mystery of the Bermuda Triangle? And again, we're going to cite fair use. This is from The Guardian. Yeah, so apparently, ships certainly could sink suddenly if the water beneath them turned to foam, which these craters, measuring up to 45 meters deep and 800 meters wide, could be capable of doing. And then they go on to mention, so that solves the mystery of the Bermuda Triangle. Nope, why not? First, it isn't clear whether gas blowouts happen in the triangle area. Second, even if they did, it isn't clear how they would make planes vanish from the sky above. Third, several of the incidents attributed to the Bermuda Triangle involve people vanishing from ships rather than the whole ship vanishing. That's another thing. A lot of people go missing. Even if the ship doesn't disappear, people disappear off of ships inside the Bermuda Triangle, which is another part of the strange phenomenon that is the Bermuda Triangle. Gotti's original articles and others that follow it, if were total cobblers. Some supposedly vanished boats were later found, other vanishings, such as the disappearance. Yes, it was the 1945 of the 5 Flight 19 training planes. Aren't just difficult to explain. They got lost and ran out of fuel. Indeed, boats and planes only vanish in the Bermuda Triangle about as often as they vanish everywhere else. I believe that to be inaccurate, according to my research. But again, when you get into a great mystery, people are going to disagree, I suppose. Do say, did aliens make people believe that ships were going missing in the West Atlantic? Attack the killer sea farts. Yeah, very interesting article on whether or not the gases are what is causing these strange phenomenon. And I had another story, but I somehow lost it. Just bear with me, friends. Like I said, there's always stories. There's always stories coming out of the Bermuda Triangle. It's an interesting place. People are aware of the strange happenings and the mysteries in the Bermuda Triangle. So quite often there are news stories that talk about the mystery of the Bermuda Triangle. Here we have a recent story. Man discovered clinging to his capsized boat after being lost in the Bermuda Triangle. Nearly 24 hours after being reported lost at sea, 62-year-old Florida man was found clinging to the wreck of his capsized boat. Stuart B. was spotted by the crew on board the container ship Angelus, some 86 miles. Wow. He was 86 miles off the coast of Florida, near Cape Canaveral, holding firmly to the hull of his boat. The region conforms to the traditional boundaries of the Bermuda Triangle. So he was definitely within the Bermuda Triangle when his boat went missing. According to the U.S. Coast Guard, authorities had been searching for signs of the man since he was first reported missing on Saturday morning. And here we see the original tweet. One second. I'm going to share that from Twitter so we can see these pictures. Pretty interesting. And that guy is a very lucky man because he was on a capsized boat. Look at that. He was clinging to his capsized boat for some 24 hours before he was located by a container ship. And here's a photo of one of the people on the ship who gave him some new clothes. It's nice to know there's still decent humans on planet Earth, right? It's nice to know. A Fox News report said the person who reported being missing became worried since he didn't return by Saturday after leaving Cape Marina on Friday. B typically didn't stay out at sea overnight. Dramatic photos shared by the Coast Guard show B swimming to safety and climbing aboard the container ship that spotted him. Captain Mark Vallon of the Coast Guard's Jacksonville sector was grateful to all involved in B's rescue. Saving lives at sea is our highest calling. This is truly incredible outcome that demonstrates the bond among all mariners and our community. The man's condition was immediately not known, but I think it's safe to say he is more than relieved to be back on dry land. Yeah, so there we go. And if you search Bermuda Triangle today, this is an interesting Google experiment. You will be surprised at the number of stories that come out of the Bermuda Triangle. There are more stories and more stories and more stories. Um, yes, the Urban Way mentioning boats capsize all over the world. I absolutely agree with you. It's just something that happens, but it does seem statistically to happen at a much higher clip in that area than up the rest of the coastline, at least from the research that I've been able to determine and statistics that we were able to find about shipwrecks off of each state coast. In other words, I looked up the statistics for shipwrecks, lost ships, and lost airplanes off of each coastal state up and down the East Coast. And I think that it's pretty clear if you do that, that there is a much huger amount in Florida. Now, could this be a nothing burger? Could be, because obviously there's a lot more boats in Florida, sunny Florida. A lot more people have personal pleasure craft and boats and shipping boats. And there is a lot more. There's ports in Florida where shipping container ships come in. But then again, there's ports in Philadelphia where shipping container ships come in, and in many other coastal cities. So who knows? It could be that there's just a hell of a lot of boats in Florida and a hell of a lot of people going out on boats in Florida. So statistically, sure, there's going to be more shipwrecks. There's going to be more missing boats. There's going to be more boats that capsize due to bad weather, whatever the case may be. You never know, though, right? I mean, it's better to go to that than to, I suppose, err on the side of caution than go straight to, it's got to be time travel teleportation devices from the ancient city of Atlantis. Again, I've always thought that was a bit of a stretch, but that's something that people always bring up when we talk about the Bermuda Triangle. So this is about all I have to share with you, friends. We're going to call today's presentation a quick one. Like I said, I do have a great deal of show business to do off that doesn't involve broadcasting, which means trying to get caught up to our audio podcast. We're a bunch of shows behind. I know people have been messaging me, and that should be fixed tonight, as well as some other stupid issues that we're going to have to try to deal with. So here's what we're going to do, friends. We're going to take a short musical break, and when I return, we will be taking comments, questions, and suggestions for future shows from the live chat, and also reading any super chats. Don't believe that we've gotten any tonight so far, but get those super chats in. We will be reading them when we return. So we'll be right back.
Of a life forgotten, the pictures, the letters that we wrote are hidden in the dark, locked away forever, buried in a shoebox labeled bird. Let it burn, burn away the memories. Let it burn, burn away your pain. Let it burn, till there's nothing left but ashes. Let it burn, and let it blow away. Let it burn. Some nights when it rains, I dig out old pictures and dance with memories hour nowadays. I wish I could let go and just walk out of this prison, the shrine that I have built around my pain. Let it burn, burn away the memories. Let it burn, burn away the pain. Let it burn, till there's nothing left but ashes. Let it burn, let it blow away. Let it burn, let it burn.
And we're back, friends. And I noticed there's some really excellent comments and suggestions or comments and questions in the live chat. So we're going to get to that and read any super chats that we have to read. A few ways you could support the show. One of them is to join our Patreon for as little as $1 a month. You could send a PayPal donation or a super chat. That would be the money button down there, and throw a couple of bucks in our hat. Keep us moving forward, doing content like this for you to enjoy. I'm going to check in real quickly with the PayPal, and yeah, on January 8th we have a kind and generous benefactor, and that would be Alan, who made a $5 PayPal donation. Thank you for your kindness, your generosity, and your support, Alan. We appreciate it. This is a viewer-supported show. One of the best ways you can support the show is by making a PayPal donation, joining our Patreon for as little as $1 a month, where we post extra content, Patreon-only streams, and more, or send us a super chat. It's right down there in the live chat, the money button. You hit it, hit whatever money you want to send. Don't worry about whether you're in a foreign country. YouTube handles all of that for us and converts it to money we can use for the show. Okay, I'm not sure what this is about. Nowadays, some other hosts use shut to start their shows with. I'm confused. I heard somebody mention that there's a video on YouTube where somebody tested whether, let me see if I can find the comment. Yes, Unknown Sender says, somewhere on YouTube was a video of a guy testing a plane engine if methane could stall it. And I believe that you could, right? Isn't that right, Unknown Sender? Or am I not remembering it correctly? I believe that there has been tests to see if methane gas could stall an airplane engine, and it could possibly do that. So that could be another cause of the strange disappearances of, 5 airplanes a year go down in that area. I mean, it is a big area, right? I mean, it's like 1 million square miles, I think. But who knows? This is why it's a mystery, right? Yeah, have there been any cases of any material experiencing jellification in the triangle? That I'm not aware of. Not aware of. And Victor Caliero, excellent researcher, is here, chiming in on some of these Bermuda Triangle cases. There's many different cases of strange and mysterious things happening. Please debunk the Montauk Project. That dumb story is making its round again. Thank you, Lee Guy. Yes, I have plans. We're going to bring C.W. Channer here, who is a big debunker of that. He has done some pretty great pieces on the Montauk Project, basically being guys that like to jerk off in chairs and watch each other jerk off in chairs. I always laugh anytime anybody covers the Montauk Project seriously because I know about that. I'm sorry, but if one of the tests that these guys put you through to prove if you were a Montauk boy is you got to jerk off in a chair in front of them, I just don't think that the Montauk story has any credibility if that's part of the story. That's me. I sort of check out when dudes start jerking off in front of each other in, reclining chairs. I just think that story is stupid. And by the way, I had boots on the ground, Lee Guy. I've been there. I climbed the fence. I did it long enough now that I can admit it. You're not allowed to climb the fence, but I did. I was driving all the way there to stand at a fence for a day. And I found no evidence of any underground structures. I found a bunch of abandoned, decrepit buildings that were falling apart, which is why it's fenced off probably still, because it's dangerous. But I didn't find any caverns, any tunnels, any underground bases. Now, proponents of the story would argue that's because you're not supposed to find them. They're secret, but go do it. That's what I would say to anybody that doesn't believe somebody that's actually been there, walked the grounds and not found anything. Go do it yourself. And I believe, if you do that yourself, you may be blown away by the nothing burger that you get when you actually go to the location that the Montauk base is supposed to be. Yeah. Tyler Quick says, anytime you throw off the air fuel ratio in any internal combustion engine, it would stall. Yeah, could be. The Urban Way says, don't smoke at the triangle. Kaboom. Yeah, that's another possibility. I mean, if there's enough methane gas and there's combustion going on in the form of like spark plugs or somebody smoking or a spark from anything, really, that could cause a fire on board a ship. And a big enough or, dangerous enough fire could certainly sink a ship. Another possibility with the methane sort of hypothesis. Mike Gambale says, great suggestion. Yeah, we've got Montauk on our list. We'll try to do that for you, Lee Guy. Longtime supporter of the show. Effluent for You says, yes, more debunks, Stephen. Yeah. And Sixth Sense kindly posting methane, the linchpin of the AF447 tragedy. Oh, I skipped this too. Thank you, Collie Armstrong, for kind and generous 2-pound super sticker. Thank you for your kindness, your generosity, and your support of the show. We're a viewer-supported show, so everybody that throws a couple of bucks in our hat is really helping us to praise the cash, friends.
You're watching Truthseekers. Praise the cash, praise the
cash. Craig William, yeah, let's see what's happening in our ideas room, Miss Olivia. Yeah, well, hey, if it works for him, it's got to work for me. What's happening in our live chat is always, I'm sure we read a lot more comments than he does, but in his defense, he's got thousands and thousands and thousands per show. God bless him. Moody Mongol says, FYI, methane pockets under the sea, blocks of methane larger than Everest, can break away from the sea floor. There's apparently one under the triangle. They melt as they rise. That's interesting. And Moody Mongol goes on to say, the released gas can affect ships above. They sink. The gas can raise into the atmosphere and affect planes above too. Wouldn't that be interesting if it's as simple an explanation as methane? But methane, Moody Mongol may explain lost ships, lost boats, and lost airplanes, but it doesn't explain some of these strange time travel stories that seem to every so often come out of the Bermuda Triangle. Complizaire, it says, Dear Stephen, me just wants to leave a big Dankeschön that we still have broodies like you and Jeremy Rise in ufology. Knocked everybody. I took high school German, Complizaire. So he said, good night, everybody. And Dankeschön is like, thank you, right? I think. I don't remember. It's been a long time since high school, Complizaire. And by the way, I was terrible at German. Somehow they made me take German, and I think that was because I was Polish, and I guess they thought it'd be easier for me, but Polish and German are two different animals, and bear very, very, almost no resemblance to each other. I found Polish to be a little easier for me, but maybe that's because growing up, my grandparents spoke Polish, and my dad and my aunts and uncles on my father's side all spoke Polish, but interestingly, my father never wanted me to speak Polish. He always wanted us to speak English in the home because I think he was teased growing up. He was a first-generation immigrant, and he was like, kids are cruel. So, they call him a Polak and say he couldn't talk English. So when he had kids, he wanted us to just speak English. And I kind of regret that now. I wish I would have learned more Polish. I know just enough to curse and ask where the bathroom is or where a restaurant is or where the airport is. That's about it. And I'm even worse with German. So, yeah. Blinken Liar mentioning, Victor, your email interview is the best impromptu, serious investigative info that I've been waiting for years to hear. Yeah, friend of the show. Victor does great investigative journalism work. We're hoping to have him on again here soon. I got to get with him off air. Sixth Sense reminding everybody, chat, please use caps for comments and or questions, and thank you. Yeah, the Urban Way says never too late to learn, Stephen. Yeah, every once in a while I buy a course. I was going to learn Spanish for a while because I wanted to spend some time in Mexico. Um, but I lose interest after a while. What I did do with that is that I got, Spanish learning tapes, and I put them on when I was driving somewhere far, like a 2 hour ride, and try to repeat it and learn Spanish. I learned a little bit of Spanish, maybe enough to get by, but I'm certainly not fluent. And you're right, it's never too late to learn. So, yeah. William K says Germany and Poland just don't mention the war. Yeah, we're not, us Polacks are not big fans of those Germans. Moody Mongol says the triangle, I think it's probably a few causes, including general accidents. Yeah, there's just so many more ships, so it would stand to reason that there could be general accidents. I wonder gases like methane, could they cause effect on humans when inhaled, but not time travel? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it is a combination of different factors, right? Maybe it's a combination of different factors, including the magnetics, including the magnetite, including the methane. Yeah, who knows, right? Who knows? Just to mention, I didn't want to bother Spooky because I swore that Spooky told me, said Spooky was taking today off. So I did the crappy thumbnail, but Spooky still did a good one. So thank you, Spooky. We'll put that up first chance I get. This is Truth Seekers continuing series on enduring mysteries. We are exploring the great mystery of the Bermuda Triangle, talking about some of the strange and mysterious cases that have come out of the Bermuda Triangle, and what may possibly be the cause of these strange disappearances and more. Yes, Blink and Liar. I would like that. Victor, I'm hoping you're working on a presentation for Cambian. It's an intriguing case. Victor Collier says, I asked him not to pass away without leaving the tape to someone to release, to stop myths, etc. He said myths already exist, although he's confirmed that the transcript is very accurate. Yeah, so hopefully we'll hear more about the story that Victor Collier is working on. That girl Jessica is late as usual, but you're always welcome, always happy to see you, even if you're late. I'm glad that you're here, that girl Jessica. So any more comments or questions for me, please put them in all caps. Spooky says, I click the buttons. Walt Corbin says he just got the notification. Yeah, the best thing to do, and you know what, this partially is my fault. Today's the first day I forgot to post it on Facebook in a long time. Usually I post every show before they happen, both on my Facebook wall and on my Twitter feed. So make sure you follow me at Stephen Cambian on Twitter if you would like to know for sure when shows are coming up, because it seems pretty clear that you can't always depend on that YouTube notification bell. Tyler Quick is asking me, have you ever looked into the Philadelphia effect jellification? No, because I don't find the Philadelphia experiment credible. The Philadelphia experiment and the Montauk Project were both largely fictionalized, and there is very little, if any, supportive evidence for the Philadelphia experiment being a real story. In fact, the boat that they claimed was involved was somewhere else entirely when they said it was in Philadelphia when it wasn't, and there's a lot of things that point to the fact that that was a made-up story designed to make money and sell books, and it worked. They sold an awful lot of books, but provided an awful little bit, if any, proof at all. Moody Mongol says, the only natural time travel hallucination cause I can think of is Earthlights. They do cause profound hallucinations when they are close to humans. Ghosts, time dilations, all effects people report. Wow. Glitch Loop is suggesting that Edgar Casey's readings are solid. Edgar Casey is now and will always remain in my gray basket. There is certainly some compelling information about him having some sort of strange insight when he went into these trances to be able to diagnose people's medical illnesses and things like that, or have some insight into future events. The thing that always gives me pause about Edgar Casey is that he wrote the equivalent of 150 Bibles worth of predictions. So when you write that much, it's kind of easy for people to later connect the dots. It's the same thing with Nostradamus. I think a lot of times people are connecting dots that aren't there. I've heard one quatrain of a Nostradamus piece explain 4 different modern events. Now, that can't be right. The quatrain should explain one future event, not 4 of them, but you'll see different people claiming that this quatrain means this, and other people say, no, this quatrain is about JFK's assassination. No, it's about the Gulf War. It depends on who you ask and who the interpreter of these so-called psychic predictions are. Much can be, a lot of that same phenomenon, I think, takes place with Edgar Casey. People read through this huge volume of writings and predictions that he made, and they connect dots. DKG Custom says Bermuda Triangle is no different from the rest of the world. Not sure what you mean. Statistically, more ships do vanish there than most other places in the United States, at least. We can tell that through statistics. But again, that may be because there's just more boats. Moody Mongol says Earth lights are, due to plasma research around the world, still a science not spoken about much, but the effects have been known for a long time, even in ancient history where they were venerated. Yeah, I have seen videos of earthquake lights, and they're very interesting. For some reason, some sort of plasma balls of energy are seen in the skies around earthquakes. And who knows what that's caused by? Friction between the plates, the tectonic plates? I don't know. What could cause that? Maybe magnetic deposits moving back and forth? Who knows, Moody Mongol? But Earth lights and earthquake lights are another great mystery that we will certainly be exploring here in due time. Gotta get to them all eventually. Yes, Tyler Quick mentioning there is another triangle called the Dragon's Triangle, which is on the other side of the planet, off the coast of Japan. That's another place that's like the Bermuda Triangle, where a large amount of ships go missing and strange things happen. Could it be that these two places, one on one side of the globe and one directly underneath on the other side of the globe, could be somewhat connected? Interesting that the coordinates match up very well between the Bermuda Triangle off the coast of Florida and the so-called Dragon's Triangle or Dragon's Trench off the coast of Japan. That girl Jessica mentioning there's a big shelf there. Yeah, absolutely. Blinking Liar mentioning that Uri Geller was a magician, nothing more, nothing less. Even Cambion can bend spoons. Yeah, and we demonstrated how he did some of his magic tricks here on a previous show. Tommy T is asking for thoughts on Uri Geller. It's interesting, Tommy T, that though I never met him, I have magician friends that did, and it should really be noted that he even gives himself the title magician now in some of his latest, like when he's in a documentary, they'll say like magician / psychic. So now he admits that he's a magician. At the time he came out claiming to have superpowers, he would deny that he was using magic tricks or that he was a magician. And it was proven, people found proof that before he decided he was a psychic with superpowers, he was a stage magician in Israel. And he did, making rabbits come out of the hats and all that, all the magic trick stuff. Uri Geller's Uri Geller, I believe, took his knowledge of magic tricks and turned it around and pretended to have psychic powers, but he still used magic tricks. And years later, in recent times, Tommy T, Uri Geller has admitted to other magicians that he just used magic tricks for all that stuff. And he has even been at conferences, magician conferences organized by magical fraternity groups like the International Brotherhood of Magicians and the Society of American Magicians, both of which I was once a member of. Anyway, he would go to their national conventions and he was selling these super expensive DVDs. I think they were hundreds of dollars for a course from him, where he would teach you all the magic tricks that he used to do all of his psychic tricks while he was a famous so-called psychic. I think that alone makes it pretty clear that he doesn't have superpowers or psychic powers and that he was indeed just using magic tricks. Most good magicians can recreate most of the things that Uri Geller did with ease, honestly. There's been many different magicians, most famously the amazing Randy, which could demonstrate every one of Uri Geller's magic tricks that he claimed were caused by his own mind powers. It was done by sleight of hand and misdirection and typical magician's tricks, some of which you can buy at any magic shop in the country. Most magic shops are online now, but you can go look up Bending Spoon's magic trick on Google. You'll find 100 different magic shops selling you tricks and methods, DVD, teaching you how to do it, or what's called gimmicks. A gimmick, for those that don't know, is a little device, a secret device that a magician will use to make a magical effect happen. It could be, a little device to bend a quarter in your bare hands that you can conceal. It could be all these different things. It's called a gimmick. There's gimmicks to bend spoons. There's sleight of hand methods to bend spoons. I always thought it was kind of funny. You know, somebody has superpowers. That's like the stupidest superpower ever, right? Can you fly? No. You got super strength? No. Can you turn invisible? No. Oh, okay. Then what's your superpower? Well, I can bend spoons with my mind. You know, it's like the most useless, stupid superpower. But Uri Geller fooled millions of people into believing that he had psychic powers, and he made millions of dollars working for companies claiming that he was going to show them exactly where oil deposits or diamond deposits were. And his success rate with that was really dismal, like a dismal failure. No better than guessing. A statistician proved that once, that his so-called psychic powers that would let him locate oil, gas, and diamond and gold deposits were no better than any person off the street just making random guesses on a map. So it is what it is, and that's where we find ourselves. I know Uri Geller is a master at getting publicity for himself. The latest I've heard from Uri Geller is now he's claiming that he's going to remote view and find the Ark of the Covenant. He's always pushing sensational stories. He claimed that he was going to psychically change and stop Brexit from happening. That didn't work out. And many, many other things. It's like whatever's going on in the news, Uri Geller tries to get publicity for himself. I don't know what he's been doing lately. I'd love to get an interview, but I have reached out to him 3 times. And even with the fact that he knows some of, there's that saying 7 degrees of separation, but if you're a magician, there's really only 2 degrees of separation, which means if I don't personally know a magician, one of my friends does. That's how a small subculture it is. And everybody knows everybody in that strange subculture. So even with Mr. Geller knowing 3 or 4 of friends of mine or former teachers of mine, I still couldn't get him to agree to an interview. And I thought that would make him feel more comfortable. Like, hey, I know you know so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so. And I was a stage magician and I met them here and there and I'd like an interview. Crickets. Never heard back from him. Now, again, maybe he's a busy guy. I don't know what he's doing lately, but I would sure someday, if given the opportunity, I would like to interview him because I would like to press him on the magician issue and see if he will publicly admit, because I've heard him admit it on video and audio recordings while he didn't know he was being recorded at a magic conference while he's selling his tricks to other magicians. But I have never heard him admit it on the record in a public forum. And I'd like to see if he would do that or not. Right? Magicians destroyed Atlantis, according to Edgar Casey. Yeah, maybe they bored everybody to death with card tricks, Glitch Loop, and everybody just died because they were sick of seeing card tricks. You know, one of the things when I was a magician glitch loop that I always hated is every magician thinks that they're so great at card tricks that they could be entertaining for like 2 hours with just a deck of cards. And I got to tell you, there's like 2, 3 people in the world that could do that, and you ain't one of them. And these guys would just bore you to death with like, pick a card. I'm going to find the card. Ooh, pick a card. Is that your card? Oh shit, it's not. Oh, I'll transform it into your, like, it's after 2 or 3 is fine, but after a while, like another one. I never did many card tricks. I did one or two really well, especially just in case a paying client asked me to see card tricks. A lot of guys play poker and they like to see a magician to see how good you are. I was pretty good. I could do one-handed cuts and and show off flipping the cards around on my fingers and stuff. Sort of like a joke, like nobody will play poker with me. I wonder why. Nobody will let me deal, But I would do a few card tricks and no more. Because people don't care about card tricks that much. It's interesting to note that the Bermuda Triangle, if you line it up correctly, corresponds exactly to the dimensions of Mr. Wilcox's forehead. A chance occurrence? I think not. Yeah. 1,000,000 square miles, that's a bit of a stretch there, Moody Mongol. I would think that is definitely a bit of a stretch, right? Okay, so we've been here for an hour and 35 minutes, friends. And like I said, I've got a whole bunch of other stuff to do for the show. So I think we're going to call this a short one. Now, I have a folder full of other stories that came out of the Bermuda Triangle that we haven't talked about. Maybe we'll do a new series just called the Bermuda Triangle Report, because apparently there's always new and interesting stories coming out of the area of the Bermuda Triangle. And some of them are really weird. I was a little, I wanted to be a little cautious, not go with some of these really woo out there stories, because I got to look into them before I just say, here's a true story from Bermuda Triangle that may be bogus, So, yeah, and success is reminding people we're on Rumble now. You can go check out some of our shows on Rumble. But I would prefer if everybody watches the shows on YouTube most, because here we are monetized, and it seems like these other distribution platforms are long on promises but short on show me the money. I think we've made, I don't know, something like a grand total of $10 between all video platforms, which is really nothing compared to YouTube. But I'm hopeful that things will improve, and we don't want to put all our eggs in one basket given the current conditions here. We want to keep our options open so that we could be as many places as possible, so that as many people as possible can also find us. So that's where we're at. So what can I say, friends? We're going to call this one a short one. I'm going to try to tend to some show business that I'm behind on. I'm a terrible show host. And what do you always hear me say, friends? You always hear me say that I'm always happy when there's an audience. Today we had a great one, and for once we veered off into other subjects, which is something that we desperately have to do. Can't stick to the same beat. Things get very stagnant. And, and I'm not saying this to be critical of others, but I just noticed that some people are really stretching a story pretty goddamn thin to just keep going with another show. And I refuse to become that, right? I got to keep bringing you stories worth watching. I'm not going to stretch out a story and use, people are using all kinds of new mental gymnastics to justify running with it again. It's just that there's nothing to talk about over there. So let's talk. I don't want to do that. And again, I'm not being, to each their own. Everybody gets to decide whatever they want to cover on their own show. I don't have the right to decide what somebody covers, but I have the right to decide what I cover. And if there's nothing going on in a certain area or beat that we usually cover, I'm going to cover something else. I think that's best. And we have to expand our horizons here, grow our tent, and interest more people than just people into a very certain subculture of the paranormal world. I'm fascinated by almost all things strange, esoteric, mysterious, or paranormal. So I'm fine with covering all of it. And we kind of lost sight of that because it seems like, you get in this niche and go, oh, this is what people are coming here to see. We want to give people what they want. But at the same time, I don't want to become a broken record repeating the same garbage story 5 shows in a row because there's nothing else to talk about. We want to do our best here to bring you new and interesting things to talk about. So you always hear me say this, always happy when there's an audience. Today we had a great one, friends. I want to thank all our kind and generous benefactors, super chatters, Patreon supporters, PayPal donators, and more. And I want to remind you one final thing. There is one other way to support us, and that is to like, comment, subscribe, and share. And if you happen to be listening in audio podcast land, realize that this is a replay that you're listening to. If you want to be part of the live broadcast and the live tapings for the audio podcast, go on over to YouTube. Put Truthseekers, one word, in the search bar. Look for me, the strange guy with sunglasses. I'll be the first search result that comes up. Truthseekers, one word, in the search bar. Go to Truthseekers channel, smash that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and you too will know when we're doing a live broadcast. You can come over here, ask questions, interact with this great live chat, comments, tell us what kind of shows or stories you would like to see in the future going forward here on Truthseekers. We value all of you. The other thing that you could do is share these videos on your social media. Put them on your Facebook, your Instagram, anywhere that you can. Your Facebook, your Instagram, your Twitter feed. Share these videos. It really does help us to expand our reach, find new audience members, and more. So besides throwing a couple of bucks in our hat, that's the other thing that you could do that would be really, really helpful to keep us creating this show. What else can I say? I will be back tomorrow for another show, which we may or may not be, exploring new topics. I'm hopeful that we will. I have many different shows that were sort of half prepared and never finished. So I am trying to get new stories to bring you about these strange and esoteric subjects. So we're going to bounce on out of here. I would thank each and every one of you for joining us, and especially thank all you kind and generous benefactors helping us. This is a viewer-supported show. You guys help make this show possible. So until next time, friends, my name is Stephen Cambion. Good night, and God bless all.